Lex Luthor's a real jerk. Dolly shot. What? I can read real books.
Twitchy Dolphin Media presents Let's Get To. It's baseball from sea to shining sea by the team that brings you home. And now, your host, James Christopher.
And welcome to Let's Get To. I am your host, James Christopher. And there's a quote from Charlie Strong, seen here. A quote that you'll hear more than once in this episode, which honestly shocked the heck out of me that we were talking about Charlie at all. But here we are. Now, Charlie said once that social media is the downfall of society. Charlie was referring to what it was like to coach kids in the modern era, where every single little impulsive thought is put out for the entire world to see. Now, I won't go that far. Social media can do a lot of things, some of which are good. You're not watching this show if it weren't for the ability to reach to people all over the world. And that's social media at its best. Not just getting you to watch this show, but getting people to connect. Though I'm very, very glad you've taken the time to watch this show. Please keep doing so. Now, I think what most people think about when it comes to social media is how toxic it can be. Between China stealing our data and the sheer jerkery that we encounter, it can be hard to fathom why anyone would do it. I literally ask myself this question every day after about 10 minutes on Twitter. The Bird app is filled with anonymous people who say whatever they want because of zero repercussions. Things they wouldn't say in real life, lest they get punched in the face. And then Facebook is, of course, perfect to find out which of your relatives are racist. Not a whole lot of good to choose from on the surface. People's penchant for using social media to indulge their worst parts of their nature is what makes it toxic, and it does make it a miserable experience for a lot of us. Now, as an independent filmmaker, we subjected ourselves to this. We went onto a film set without any resources except for our own creativity and ingenuity and attempted to create something out of nothing. The result is hopefully a film with a ton of heart, and hopefully we can mitigate the loss in production value that simply exists because of our budget or lack thereof. Now, it's one thing for your mother to ask why your $10,000 movie doesn't look or sound like The Dark Knight. That's a true story. But a movie needs to be seen by the public at large, and this is where you get your first peek at just how sick the faceless social media hordes can be. Be it rude comments or anonymous reviews on Amazon from people who've never actually picked up a camera, it's rough. You put your guts out there, and some anonymous social media never-doer is quick to just rip them out. Yeah, it's super great. So maybe it is actually the downfall of society, creating rude, ill-tempered zombies with zero ability to relate to people IRL. That's in real life for all you olds. There's nothing like debating baseball with Yankee fan 584929 on the ins and outs of baseball, and then they respond by wishing for a hurricane to hit your city. It's super awesome. But it doesn't have to be the downfall of society. If we could just remember that there are humans on the other sides of these keyboards, it would make for a much better experience. Is it pie in the sky to try to find some positivity in the world? Well, this show is all about finding positivity. We're all about pie in the sky. We're about mom, baseball, and apple pie in the sky, I guess. Anyway, we have a great show for you today. Baseball national champion and American League champion Calvin Schiraldi is here to talk about his new book. We're talking to the Casper Spuds about their big move to Wyoming, and we're knocking the cover off. So don't be the downfall of society and quit watching. Uplift society and tell your friends about this show. Because again, we've got a great one for you, so stay with us.
And now, knocking the cover off, the Baseball Book Club.
Welcome to the first edition of Knocking the Cover Off for our 2023 season. This is our baseball book club, so come on in. Grab some, I don't know what you do at a book club, but we're glad you're here. Now, whether it's nonfiction or fiction, I love books about baseball. I think the nature of the game, how random it can be, how sometimes the game, it's just out of your hands. I think that lends itself to be able to discuss parts of the human condition in a way that doesn't feel forced and I think is easy to understand, which leads us to our review of The Arena by Calvin Schiraldi. Now, this book is blunt, it's direct, and it's honest. It's written without the lyrical flair that you might get from something written by George Will. In the most refreshing way, it's plain spoken and it pulls no punches. And that's because it's about a man who played the game, who celebrated the great highs and endured and lived through the lowest of the lows. Calvin Schiraldi takes us through his entire career, from Westlake state champion to coaching high school baseball in Austin, Texas. Now, in the middle, there was a national championship at the University of Texas, Hook 'em Horns, and then a pitch in the 1986 World Series that changed his life forever. Calvin takes us through it all, the ups, how he coped with the downs, with the honesty of a man who is tired of having the world speak for him. There is zero attempt to pivot blame or to try to shield him from the criticism behind that one pitch and then the resulting years that followed it. Now, whether it was Calvin's attempt to create something important in his memoir is unclear, but the simple fact is he did. Look, we all have our stuff that can beat us down. What's that great line from Rocky Balboa? Nothing hits as hard as life. The bit about moving forward. Well, simply, that's what this book's about, moving forward. But it's not about a fictional heavyweight champion. It's about a pitcher from Texas who walked the walk. Now, I speak on this show about my military career all the time. I talk about the struggles that stem from it. Veterans every day kill themselves. We've had organizations trying to stop that on this show. I've lost several friends to suicide in the last 20 years or so. So when I got out, I wanted to be open about what I was feeling because we needed to destigmatize and have conversations about suicide and depression and other mental health issues so that we can save lives. This book's reflection of Calvin's journey through alcoholism and depression is a great salvo in the fight for awareness. I can't recommend the book enough. We're going to have the link to how you can buy your own copy in the description of this episode. I recommend getting one for yourself, and I recommend getting one for all the baseball fans in your life.
Ladies and gentlemen, please adjust your scorecards. We have a special guest in the lineup.
And so we're super excited to welcome to Let's Get To the author of The Arena. He's a Texas state champion, a national champion, and American League champion, Calvin Schiraldi. I'm going to call you Coach because that's how I know you. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing well. We're what, sitting here, pitchers and catchers are going, so it's almost the best time of the year.
You got that right.
So it's funny because your book deals with a lot of themes. A lot of it is about sort of swallowing fear or moments and kind of pushing ahead anyway. And I'm going to begin the question with, as a professional screenwriter, we always joke that there's nothing scarier than a blank page. So what prompted the book and how did you feel like, how did the getting starting process go?
We were David and I were literally driving to hunting camp, and he's been trying for years to get me to do the book. We used to tell stories on a coach's retreat up on a porch, and I would tell stories, and he was just fascinated by it. He goes, "You need to write a book." So, like, for 20 years, he was trying to get me to write this book. And then over that time, I was a drunk, just put it bluntly, and my frame of mind was never there to want to put that stuff on me, to go back and rehash stuff like that. So I just kept saying no and no and no. And then finally, he on the last trip down, he said, "I'm going to ask you one more time." And I've been sober for probably 9-10 months, I guess. And I thought about it. He told me what the premise would be, and I said, "Okay, let's try it and see what we come up with." And he wrote the first chapter, and it was like, "Okay, we'll continue this," and it just kind of kept going from there.
One of the things I appreciate about it too, you use the word bluntly. The book is blunt. The book pulls no punches. I love the fact that it's so direct. There's not a lot of reading between the lines and what you're trying to say. I mean, how much of that is just your personality coming through the page and wanting to make sure that your intent was clear?
When I started the book, I said I was going to be completely honest. That's one of the things we talk about in meetings and stuff, is honesty. And I said, I'm just going to throw it all out there. And I did. And that was, I'm getting goosebumps now thinking about it, because that was the best personal therapy that I've ever had. Just doing this book made my life a lot better. It made me realize some things about my life that I didn't know at the time. I didn't know back then, and I didn't appreciate any of it. There was always something better, always something and now I can sit back after writing this and appreciate the things that I was able to do, that God blessed me with the abilities to do, and it's been awesome since.
Did you know that would be the result going in? I mean, part of you had to realize it might be a little cathartic.
I had no clue that was going to happen. And it was scary. I was scared to death, but then, each chapter, it just got easier and easier, going back to remembering things that I really had no clue that I was remembering. Mm-hmm. And putting it on paper and seeing it again, it's like, okay, that wasn't so bad. So now we just roll with it. And then the last couple chapters are the ones, well, actually the 86 part was pretty tough, but, going back, because I never really sat through and watched those games. And we did that in writing the book, and so that allowed me to appreciate, being in the World Series. I never really appreciated it up until this point. I was thinking about this today, is, people never, like Ernie Banks would have given his right arm to be in the World Series. Never got to play in the World Series, and I didn't appreciate it at the time until the book came out, until we started writing the book.
You deal with 86 with so much honesty that I couldn't help but really admire you for it. You are the kind of guy whose reputation precedes you, and we'll get a little bit to that as far as you and your former players, but you break it down and you say your entire life changed on one pitch. How do you feel about it now versus then? And I want to get into talk about the media part, because that part really struck me.
I always took the blame myself, and I still take the blame. I mean, I did not get the job done with one pitch. The 0-2 pitch to Ray Knight, that was a chance to close out the World Series. I didn't get the job done. But for me, I had put all the blame on myself, and instead of also realizing the fact that, Ray did a hell of a job with that. I made a mistake, and he made me pay for it. I never thought of it that way. I never thought about their abilities to come back. The perception is that we failed. And instead of, what about the fact that the Mets came back and they were a pretty good team?
Yeah.
I mean, they had 112 wins or whatever it was. Not given that, there was no credit given to them. It was the fact that we screwed up, or that I screwed up, and not the fact that they were a good enough team to be able to come back and make us pay for some mistakes.
You, one of the things that I think struck me the most, what I would never have occurred of, And I think it's because I'm so used to living in what we live in as a culture now, which is a very zero-sum game. But the initial reaction from the fans of Boston, the fact that they threw you guys a parade, that they did appreciate the fact that you guys went out there and represented them in the World Series. Were you shocked at that too? I know you talked a little bit about it in the book of seeing the turnout and the response.
That was surprisingly awesome. But we didn't really know that was going to happen. With the way the media presents things, especially around that, it was surprising, and it was totally awesome. There were 500,000 people there, and that was really cool. And they just appreciated. The fans appreciated our efforts. We were picked to finish 4th, I think, in the East. Not even a chance, and they just appreciated. They appreciated the ALCS. They appreciated all the playoffs because ESPN has done the deal where it's the number 1 playoffs of all times, and rightfully so, because both the ALCS, the NLCS, and the World Series were phenomenal events, and it was just an appreciation by the fans of what that season was like.
Then you talk about the media, and I think this is kind of where I wanted to dig into this a little bit, because I thought you talk about how it's sort of devolving culture, the devolution. I think you said something to the effect of the devolution of the sports world. How soon did you recognize that the media was going to change the narrative, and therefore that would change the reaction that you would get as a result of that effort? And then also, I'm assuming you don't see it getting any better now that we all have social media. Is it getting worse?
It's getting a lot worse. I don't remember when it was, because it evolved over a period of time, and I really didn't really understand it. I think I just kind of fed off of it, because of my state of mind and the fact that I was an alcoholic and all that stuff. So that just made things worse. Until we wrote the book, I let the media define who I was.
Mm-hmm.
I let other people define, and I can go back to certain instances. And it's not, when I say the media, it's not the entire media. It's certain people in the media who think that they are, they decide what goes on, and without knowing, without ever having played the game, without ever having been a part of it, something like that. They want a goat. They don't want a hero. They want a goat. They want it to blame things on somebody, instead of like the way the 86 went was the Red Sox choked,
mm-hmm.
the Mets didn't win. That was the take on it, and it's wrong. Because of the way those games were played, it's a part of the game. Somebody's going to win. Somebody's going to lose. Somebody's good enough. You look at Patrick Mahomes a couple years ago. He wins the Super Bowl, and the next year he's the GOAT in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
It's and now he's a hero again. So it's fickle, and I know it's got to be done. And my favorite quote is Charlie Strong: "Social media is the downfall of society."
Yeah.
With everybody with phones, there's so much more out there. An individual can do things. When you got players videoing coaches in a halftime meeting type stuff. That's just ridiculous. And that never happened back then.
Yeah.
Because that was a long time ago. We didn't have the cell phones, but now it's so much more amplified with social media, and you have these social media people that want to turn, they're just negative, and so anything that they can find they're going to throw it out there and give their spin on it like they're experts, and it's just it's chaos, really. Just an easy way to put it.
You talked about there's got to be a winner, there's got to be a loser. One of the things I really liked in the book, though, is I think you do a great job of threading the needle between acknowledging that without sort of what I've seen in culture today, almost celebrating losing, like sort of everybody gets a trophy kind of culture. And I thought you did a really good job of differentiating between the two, acknowledging the effort while still recognizing that there's a winner and a loser. How much do you see that kind of just, again, continuing to be pervasive in our sports world now?
In the sports world now, I'm involved now with, I'm coaching a 13 youth team, and that is, I get to see the little league parents and all that stuff. But it's, you know, another thing I thought about was, I don't know if you've ever seen Jeff Dunham, and he does when he has Earl on, and Earl's the text guy, and he talks about all the trophies that he has in the room, and Jeff goes, "Oh yeah, what are they for? Participation." And, you know, yeah, but that's the way society is now. That it's participation trophies. You know, when everybody is super and they do a great job, and it's all positive, even though the kid is not very good, it's all, yeah, you did a great job. What for me, what that does is it doesn't form a basis for working to get better, because I did good. Mom and dad said I did good, even though the kid sucked. I did good. So he's not working harder to get better, and therefore things get stymied, and kids don't grow. And then you get the coach that tries to point out the fact that, you know, I've always said, I will tell you the truth. I will, if you do well, I'll tell you do well. If you suck, I'm gonna tell you suck. And here's why: just because you got to work at it, you got to work at what you do wrong in order to get better. But then you get in trouble for doing that now. That's what's bothersome, is the fact that you get in trouble for telling the truth.
Yeah, it's something that I find a hard time as I'm a former non-commissioned officer before all this, and the whole idea of that concept, I just don't understand it when it comes to training young men, which I want to get to now. You and I are former colleagues. I'm still close to a lot of your former players. I think when I hear people talk about you as their coach and their mentor, the phrase they come up with is run through a brick wall. I'm thinking about Alex Canada, guys like that. How much of those guys are your legacy now going forward, now that you've sort of at least now have a different perception of sort of what was defined by one pitch in 1986?
That was the greatest, one of the greatest moments in my life was there was a get together of all my former players, and there must have been 40 to 50 former players there, and telling stories back from, I mean, when I first started back in 96 and 97, all the way up to 2018, and to see the growth and see what those young men have become. I mean, they're doctors, they're lawyers, and the appreciation that they showed, that the stuff. I mean, I was brutal on some of them. I mean, brutal on some of them because I needed to get the best out of them, and for them to come back and say thank you, it was because of all the crap that they went through in high school that allowed them and gave them the abilities to do the things that they are doing now. I mean, freaking goosebumps on my arms right now just thinking about it, because it was so powerful and so gratifying to see the results of the work, because you don't see it while it's going on, and they don't see it while it's going on. 10 years afterwards, it's an appreciation that you never think could happen. And it was like being able to be at my own funeral. That's
wow.
how cool it was. I mean, it's like I was dead, but I got to hear the things that meant the most to the people that mean the most.
I love that. I'm getting goosebumps too. You wrote this book and you're honest about all of it. You're honest about the alcoholism and the sort of the way things kind of stuck with you. And I read the book 3 times in preparation for the interview. I'm pretty open about the fact that, again, former NCO with PTSD stuff from deployments, I took a lot from the book as far as dealing with my own stuff. How much of it is that part of it at all in your motivation to understand that people can now learn from what you went through and maybe avoid some of those pitfalls themselves?
That was the biggest motivation for the book. That was the motivation, because the way that it helped me get through it, the way that just the feelings that I felt after writing the book. So this could really help somebody. My wife was saying the same thing. It's not a baseball book. Mm-hmm. It's built around baseball, but it's more of a life book that will help people. I mean, our first thought is if it helps one person, then it's done its job. I mean, if it only sells one copy and it helps that one person, that it's done its job. That's all I care about, is the fact that it could possibly help and affect at least one person's life.
I think it has, and I think it'll continue to do so. Just a couple other sort of random stuff before we go. Longhorn graduate, national championship. The Longhorn community just lost Coach Gus. Any sort of thoughts about what your time was like with him? Because he sounds like you might have learned a little coaching from his style.
I did a lot of coaching from his style. And the thing about it, it's like I said, while you're going through it, like I said, the kids that from my funeral, it was the same thing with his, because when I was at Texas, I did not like him. He was not your friend. And that's what I told my players. I'm not your friend. I am your coach. I didn't realize it at the time, but after you leave and come back as a pro, it's like, it's a completely different person that you get to see on the field. The first year back for like the alumni game, it's like, I don't know who this guy is. And he's smiling and he's talking to you, and the whole relationship changed when we came back from pro ball or after you graduate. He's a different person, and you come to respect, like, man, that is really cool how that is while you're there, he's not your friend, but when you come back, he respects you, because you never feel that while you're there, but then after it's over with, he goes, the thoughts that run through your mind are, man, I really appreciate what he did for me. And it's just nothing but it was an appreciation. And the University of Texas lost a great man in Coach Gus, and it was what they did there. That ceremony was phenomenal. And it was good to see a lot of people that I haven't seen in a long time.
Okay. Last two questions. A little bit silly, I guess, but what's the more realistic sort of minor league baseball movie? Is it Bull Durham or Summer Catch? And please tell me it's whatever. I'm not going to lead you.
I'm a big Bull Durham fan.
Okay.
Because it really is a lot like that. It was back when I played. It was. I don't know what it's like now. My son went through it from 2014 to 19 or 20. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the minor league system is now, but what they portrayed in Bull Durham, that was because the fields we played on sucked. The bleachers sucked. The hotels sucked. They didn't have skyboxes and the way things are now, like in the minor leagues. It was a lot different back then.
Well, I'm glad that at least they're figuring out a way to get the guys paid. I guess last question then, the role of baseball in your life. I know you're still coaching. Are you watching Major League Baseball? Do you have opinions on Manfred's new rules from ghost runners to larger bases? Where does it fit for you now?
I don't watch Major League Baseball anymore. I'm disgusted with the strikeouts and the launch angle and hitting home runs, and the game is not played the way that I grew up playing it. Sacrifice bunts, stealing, those don't happen anymore. I mean, even in the ghost runner, all that crap with guys on second base, they don't sacrifice the guy over. They're leaving the guys up there to hit, and they're striking out. And I just don't like the way the game is played. I love watching college baseball because I think that's more of a natural way of doing it. And the new rules it's killing the game. I don't like that. I just don't. I watched the playoffs, and it's just because my Stros were in it. But I don't watch a lot of Major League Baseball just because it's it's not the game that I played.
It's definitely, I'm still Mr. Bunt guy on my sort of baseball media Twitter groups, and I get yelled at all the time, but that's the I don't know. It's real baseball. Coach, thanks so much for jumping on. He is Coach Calvin Schiraldi. The book is The Arena. I'm going to have the link in the description of this episode, so that way people can buy their copy. And thanks for jumping on Let's Get To.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
On the St. Louis team, we have who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third.
That's what I want to find out. I want you to tell me the names of the fellas on the St. Louis team.
I'm telling you, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third.
You know the fellas' names?
Yes.
Well, then who's playing first?
Yes.
I mean, the fellas'
Who's on
base.
first? The Let's Get To team of the week.
And we are super excited to welcome to Let's Get To. He is the founder of the now Casper Spuds.
Yes.
Jeff Dobish. Jeff, how you doing? We are almost to baseball.
Yes, spring training. I'm in the heart of it down here in Tampa Bay, Florida. I'm 20 minutes away from the Pirates in Bradenton. I live in Apollo Beach, so when I get bored, sometimes I just head down the road, and it's pretty cool to be 15, 20 feet away from major league stars and up and coming stars. It's super cool. I'm a hockey guy. I'm from Vancouver Island, Canada, so my background is not in baseball, but I came down to Florida 21 years ago now, and I met spring training in Port St. Lucie and fell in love, and through my son and playing high school baseball and college baseball, and now with the Spuds, it's been pretty awesome. But yeah, no, spring training is here, and you can tell by all the Michigan plates that are here, all the New York plates are here, all the Pennsylvania plates from the Phillies and the Yankees and the Detroit Tigers. But it's a good spot to be in right now, and the weather's pretty good here in Tampa too.
I was going to go see I'm a long time grown up in Houston Astros fan. I was going to go. I was supposed to fly out March 14th in 2020.
Well, yeah, that would not have been a good time to go anywhere. So
yeah, the funny part of that is my wife paid for Julia Morales, our sideline reporter, to do a cameo, and she said, "Don't worry, we'll be back in a few weeks."
Yeah. She was right. It was a few.
Yeah. Let's talk a little Spuds baseball.
Yeah.
Part of the Independence League with our really good friends, the Spearfish Sasquatch.
Yep.
Moving to Casper, Wyoming. First of all, why the move?
Well, it really wasn't what I wanted to do. When I joined the collegiate summer ranks, Caldwell for me was a place I wanted to be. I fell in love with the city. Boise West is unbelievable, and was promised at that time. With teams being in Nebraska and North and South Dakota and Wyoming, we had the team in Butte that only lasted a year there. The promise was to grow out to Idaho, and it never happened. It's a 13-hour bus ride to my closest competitor. And with gas prices and insurance and buses not driving at nighttime, I saw the writing on the wall that nobody was going to be able to come out and play in Caldwell, and it would have been tough. And so after 2 years in with the Spuds in Canyon County, I had a decision to make. I could do one or two things. I could fold up camp and fold the Spuds, or I could jump on an opportunity. So when the Horseheads packed up and got out of Casper with their tail between their legs, I jumped at the opportunity to go to Casper, and we talked to the city a couple times, and I brought on some local ownership, and we're super, super excited. It's a great baseball town, and they want to win. Plain and simple. They want people that live there, that breathe there, that are part of the community. So if our closer comes out in the ninth inning and lays a big turd, and they want some to be able to account for that at the local diner, and that's never had that, right? So, but we're excited. Paul and his wife Christy. We've got a general manager that's got some flavor for the area, from Cheyenne to Casper, and Matt Schneider, and great to have him back. And then it's all about growing the league, but staying within a pretty tight area now with Wyoming, North and South Dakota, and Nebraska, and we've got some pretty cool growth plans for over the next 5 years.
Yeah, the Independence League, I mean, going into its second year, first year was bumpy, but it's successful. And so how do you see that league as it continues to sort of take over baseball in that part of the country?
Yeah. Well, it's addition by subtraction. Sometimes one dose of chemo doesn't get the cancer out. Unfortunately, we had to do 2. But we feel now we've got owners that are loyal to their community, loyal to the league, loyal to what we're trying to build here. And all the owners now, and general managers and people running these ball clubs are now invested in the community. We're not interested in purging sponsors of sponsorship deals that we cannot build the value with. And guys that live locally and then want to build these teams up to be legacies and really foundations of community. It's all about affordable family fun, bringing your family to the ballpark, like you and I used to do, whether it be at the hockey rink or the ballpark with your dad. Taking dad to the game and having a hot dog and a soda and being able to have a good time and get an autograph or a foul ball. It has to do with that mesh, that synchronicity with the community. And, that's the foundation of what we're going to build on. So it's been addition by subtraction for us.
It sounds like, when I was thinking about you guys and I think where I think the Independence League can go, I look at the Northwoods League and think you guys can be those guys on 100%. That part of the country.
100%.
Casper seems like a town that's ripe for the idea of a team that loves them and they can love the town. Is that some of the things you took into account when you chose Casper to move?
Absolutely. I knew that there was a team there previous, but I also knew that the team was mismanaged, poorly mismanaged, was not in the community, was always them first. Now we've got a relationship with Legion Baseball there that we're not competition. We're going to work with them. This is about the youth of that area, having a place to play. And especially, I'm a huge Expos fan. So to have Mike Lansing Field is kind of going back to when I was a kid in Victoria, BC, and some things are meant to be. Very honestly and upfront and transparent, I'm heartbroken by having to move the Spuds. That was one of the toughest decisions I've ever made in my life. And I've had some tough ones as a business person, and it still hurts every single day. But the cool part about it, I've been able to be part and parcel with putting a new program in there. The Sawtooth Sockeyes are a collegiate summer program out in Boise, and been able to work with them on helping them get started through city council and working with the city of Caldwell and making sure that collegiate summer baseball is there to stay in Caldwell. But we have a fresh start within our ILB, and the Sockeyes will be playing. They'll be doing 2 road trips through the ILB. They'll be an affiliate member this year, so it'll be kind of fun. But the Casper for me is a challenge that I take on because it's. I've heard everything about, hey, they won't support this and they won't support that and they won't support this, and no, people aren't going to support an arm's length ownership. They want people into the community. And Paul and Christy that are there in Casper, Paul's in the real estate business and that are well known around that area. When good times are good, we're going to be there. And when bad times are bad, we're going to be there and build it better. But Casper is exciting. I think it's a huge opportunity for everybody, and we're super, super excited. Got a late start as always, but we're super excited about the opportunity.
Yeah, I got to get up there last year when it was the previous ownership, and now I need to get back because I'll be honest. In a lot of the sort of independent baseball media world, there's doom and gloom about the game of baseball, mostly coming from Rob Manfred's whole thing. I talk to you, and I think to myself, the game's in good hands because you seem like a guy that's not going to fail. And you're going to keep this game
we're not
growing.
going to fail. No, absolutely not going to fail. That's not even an option. We've got it now where, it's like minor league baseball. You have to be responsible. But the biggest key of all is to, present your product to the community and make it family fun, make it affordable. I look at the model of the Savannah Bananas. Are we going to be like that? No. Are we going to be high energy and fun like that? Absolutely. You can no longer purge the community of funds and sponsorship and season tickets and all that kind of stuff. For instance, we're going into Casper. Every seat in the building is $8. That's one of the
I love
cheapest
that.
seats in the whole place. Come on in. Let us put our best foot forward. We know this year that if we make a penny, that's going to be awesome. And we're looking at that. But the fact of the matter is we want to be able to go back to the city of Casper, all of us, and go, look, here's some huge value. Here's an opportunity for your car dealership or your real estate company, your insurance company, whatever you do, to be a part of the Spuds and what we do. We're in the schools, and I always say to everybody is you can phone anybody in the city of Caldwell, from city to the mayor to city council to economic development, and see what the Spuds did for that town, because we were obviously invested in it. But we're super excited to show Casper in that area what loyal invested management and ownership is going to do to baseball in that town, and we will not fail. Under no circumstance are we going to fail. We know what we're doing.
Two-part question, then we can do the first part first. We're staying the Spuds. I know a lot of teams like to rebrand when they move, but is that the intention? Okay. Now I have 4 producers on this show. We're a big operation. All of them want to know, will we have Casper Ghosts night?
I guarantee we will. We did it with the city of Caldwell. We went back to the 1967 Cubs, Caldwell Cubs, which was an affiliate of the Chicago Cubs. They played at an old football field there in Caldwell, and I guarantee you that the Ghosts will be back. The Ghosts, we're hoping this year, but we've got 100 different things we have to do, and that's probably 99 of them. I can guarantee you that we will have a 4th uniform in 2024 that will represent the Ghosts. The franchise will have their merchandise and so forth in association with the Spuds. But Wyoming is a big potato country, right? The steak and potato kind of town. So Spuds fit in. Tater Town is those winds will be swirling at Mike Lansing, and we're gonna have some balls leave the ballpark. And we've got an ILB All-Star, Tristan Tatum from the Spuds in Caldwell last year, that's joining us in Casper. Matt Mandeville, the catcher. We've got a center fielder in Berkey's coming. We've got a 3-year Spud. Lucas Danielwicz has been with me this will be his 3rd season with the Spuds. He's coming. So, and we got some more players coming over. Coaching staff is all in place now, and we're starting to build that relationship. And it's been exceedingly well received by the ownership group that's on the ground. And Paul and Christy and Matt have done a great job in saying, hey, we're probably a week or so away from selling season tickets, but we've already had some people commit to us. But we're super excited. And yes, the Ghosts will be back.
All right. Well, let's play a little rapid fire.
Let's
and then
do
I'll let you get back to building baseball in Casper.
Let's do it.
What is your favorite part about the off season?
The Tampa Bay Lightning, the season tickets I have that I can go and forget all about all the trials and tribulations and the 100-degree heat and the ice machine isn't working and all that kind of stuff. So for me, the off season is all about watching the Lightning.
I actually went to my first NHL game. My producer of the show drugged me up to see the Blues, and I'll be honest, I had a blast. I've never, we don't have one in Houston. So, all right. When you're visiting a new city, what is your go-to food that helps define the town for you?
Well, I'm old school. I'm a Saskatchewan raised hockey player. So for me, it's a matter of steak. I have to hunt out the best steaks. I'm a steak fiend. Boise's got some great ones. My son went to college at Midland University in Fremont. So Omaha was huge for Omaha steaks and stuff like that. So for me, what really sets it aside is, how people care about their meat, their steaks. I'm a ribeye guy. Leave that bone on there for flavor, but that's me.
Yeah, you got
at 6'5", 300 pounds. I'm definitely not a vegan. Let's put it that way.
That's right. Well, nothing about you screams vegan, Jeff, in the best possible way. All right, Godfather 1 or 2?
1.
Dad hat, flex fit, or fitted hat?
Fitted.
And
I got a size 8 head. I don't have a choice. If I go to a flex hat, I get a migraine about a half hour in, then I just walk around with this circle like it's a halo. But no, it's got to be a fitted hat, and it's all day Seattle Mariners, all day. All
right. And which of these new rules MLB's putting in this year needs to get rid of? We don't even need to mess with it.
For me, it's baseball is all about time. There's no clock, right? Every other sport has a clock, and when you start putting clocks on things, and they seem to want to fit themselves into a box of 2.5 hours, right? Much like the Savannah Bananas, who games are only 2 hours. I get it, people in and out, and they've done really well. But when I go to a spring training game, I'm just going to sit and relax and breathe. I just not going to watch. And sometimes I'll be at a Lightning game and go, man, it's 8 minutes left in the third period. Where did time go? Right. Yeah. But for me, it's just about time. I just don't know how anybody anywhere, and I'm against these different rules every year in all these different sports. Just leave it. Stop. Leave it. It's fine. But for me, it's about the time.
It's funny because I was covering actually the Columbia Fireflies, and that game was 2 hours and 5 minutes, and it was because they had the pitch clock. And I'm like, I flew all the way from Austin, Texas. I would like to stay here for 3 hours, but that's just me. But you are Jeff Dobish of the Casper Spuds. Jeff, we can't wait to follow you this season. Thanks so much for jumping on Let's Get To.
Hey, thanks for having us, and looking forward to being Casper this year. And we're gonna go up to Spearfish and beat Eric as we always do. They just can never ever beat the Spuds.
Whoa. Okay. Well, you know what? We need to have you guys on at the end of the season and figure this thing out.
At the same time, he won't come on. He just won't.
Did you just drop a challenge?
He takes my phone calls. Oh, it's a challenge.
You just dropped a Let's Get To challenge, the first one on the show. We are going to
I'll tell you right now, organization to organization. My first year, he got organization of the year. We got social media team of the year. And, fantastic people. Spearfish is, them and the Big Sticks are the backbone of what we have in the ILB, and super impressed and proud to be working with Dave and Eric. And it's our friendship is Eric's like a brother, but we will, it's for us, just beating the Sasquatch is just
part of what you do. All day. All right. Well, we'll see you. Jeff, thanks so much for jumping on.
Hey, we appreciate it. Have a good one. Go Spuds.
Raiders of the Lost Diamond, digging into baseball's past.
And welcome back to Raiders of the Lost Diamond. Now, on this segment, we've previously shared with you the stories of both the Casper Rockies and the Casper Ghosts. So today, we're going to take a trip to South Wyoming to dig into the history of baseball in Cheyenne. Now, pro baseball first came to the Magic City of the Plains in 1912. The Cheyenne Indians took the field at Pioneer Park as members of the Class D Rocky Mountain League after moving from Pueblo and then Trinidad, Colorado. Now, despite their nomadic campaign, the Indians finished first place in a 4-team circuit with a 22-7 record. Now, unfortunately, the Rocky Mountain League folded on July 5th, 1912, and the Indians had to finish their season playing unofficial games against non-league opponents. A new Indians team rode into town in 1941 as part of the 6-team Class D Western League. Once again playing in Pioneer Park, the Indians boasted former Cubs hurler George Milstead, ex-White Sox and Senators infielder John Kerr, and future White Sox and Red Sox pitcher Bill Evans. Cheyenne qualified for the playoffs on a 59-44 record, but fell in the first round to the Pueblo Rollers. The Western League ceased operations in 1942 due to that limited skirmish called World War II, and when the league returned in 47, Cheyenne was nowhere to be found. So I guess like a shooting star, pro baseball burned brightly but briefly in South Wyoming. And unlike George Strait in his classic late 90s country hit, baseball was unable to make it back to Cheyenne. Or is it more like the crazy lady in Garth Brooks' Beaches of Cheyenne who still wanders around looking for baseball? Either way, baseball in Cheyenne is a sad, sad country song. Gone like so many dogs, pickups, wives, and girlfriends.
And now, on to close it out, the right-hander from Houston, Texas, James Christopher.
And that is a wrap on this week's episode of Let's Get To. Thanks so much to Coach Schiraldi and Jeff Dobish for coming on. Now, next week, we're back with our first ballpark trip of the year as we're off to Toyota Field in Alabama, home of your Rocket City Trash Pandas. So until next time, get out to the ball game, get out and have those conversations that can only happen at a ballpark, and as always, let's get to.
Let's Get To is presented by Twitchy Dolphin Media. Creative directors Jessica Bybee Jedgetts. Executive producers James Christopher, Andy Tumcheson, and Scott McIntyre. Produced by Andrew Nelson and Eric Mertens. Associate producers Timothy Jedgetts and Jess Canaster. All content created by Let's Get To is the sole property of Twitchy Dolphin Media. All content created by teams covered in the episode are the sole property of the trademark holders.